ABC Action News.
Got a personal question for you. Have you ever had a hot flash at work? The editor of Working Woman tells you how to deal with it. And then, are you the person you wanted to be when you were a teenager? A great new book called The Life List takes a look at some of our dreams and if we fulfilled them. And finally, get this, a raw vegan cheesecake that looks spectacular.
It's like I'm seeing all the blue skies, and I'm walking on the air tonight. It feels so right, and I'm glad you're here. Glad you're here. Rebecca Regnier.
Welcome to the program. It's Full Plate. Just like the song says, I am so glad you're here. I'm Rebecca Regnier. Okay, so I do have a personal question for you. Have you ever had a hot flash at work, ladies? I haven't yet, but I feel a little sweaty right now. How do you deal with it? Do you want your coworkers to know? Are you tired because you've got like sleeping problems, all because the change of life? The editor of Working Woman magazine has steps that you can take to deal with menopause at work, and she did an interview with us. Take a look. What does the survey reveal about the impact of menopausal symptoms in the workplace? What were you the most surprised by?
Well, Working Mother and Pfizer surveyed 1,500 women ages 45 to 65 who have experienced menopausal symptoms. So we're talking to the group who are really in the mix. And what we found is half of them said it's difficult to manage their symptoms, and about a third said that they're actively trying to hide their symptoms at work. But the most amazing thing to me is that the majority of the women we spoke to said they are open about their menopausal moments with their peers and with their managers. They're talking more openly about it.
Is that a good thing that they're talking openly about it? I'm going to tell you what I would be afraid of in my own workplace. I work with kids that are, I say kids, but they're in their 20s. And if I'm talking about something that's affecting what they would consider an older person, is that going to put me behind? Is that going to, oh, she's too old for this, or she's not, hip, or whatever it is? I'd be a little concerned about sharing that information with coworkers.
I think that, that used to be really a very common way of thinking that menopause was really taboo. It's somehow we're less than. I think that, Working Mother just celebrated its 35th anniversary. The women of our original years were the first women to come in and say, I'm a working mom and this is me, I'm bringing my whole self to work. And I think there's a confidence that these women are now having in their menopausal years to say, yeah, I still get the job done. Are you getting the job done? Then, the fact that I need to take my sweater on and off shouldn't impact how you see me as probably a leader, your manager, and your boss.
I like that idea. I'm sweating right now, but still do what I say. No. So, okay, why is this important to talk about, though, then? Come out of the closet with it. Come out of the, where you're standing there fanning yourself and no one knows why. Why is it important for us to talk about it?
98% of the women that we surveyed, Rebecca, told us that they're having hot flashes. And most of them are experiencing them multiple times in a given day. In addition to hot flashes, their most bothersome symptoms included memory changes, difficulty with thinking, fatigue during the day, and they found some things that they could do during the workday that really helped to modulate those symptoms very effectively. They lowered the temperature, they used a fan, like you said, they were fanning themselves. They dressed themselves in layers, so they wore a cardigan that they could take off when they were hot, put back on when they were cool. Same thing with jackets. So part of it is to normalize what's a very normal life event, and to let other people know there's not something strangely wrong, and to share with each other some of the tricks of the trade that help us to feel more comfortable.
And then I guess that is the question: what kind of symptoms what kind of symptoms are women experiencing in the workforce? What's happening in menopause every woman's going to have to experience it at some point, but what are we experiencing? What's going to happen?
Well, for some women, they don't really have very many symptoms. They kind of look back later and say, what was the fuss? For other women, the symptoms can be very dramatic. As I mentioned, hot flashes, memory changes, difficulty with sleep, difficulty thinking, those kinds of things are most common. It's very important for women to educate themselves about the various different symptoms that are common. And one website, personalmenopauseanswers.com, can be very helpful, has a lot of information that's valuable.
So, how do you talk about it with coworkers? I mean, we're talking about Working Mother magazine here. We're talking about our workforce interaction. Some of us are private. That's the other thing. I feel a little bit, it's nobody's business, but then when there's an obvious symptom, you have to address it. So what kind of things, give us some language. What do we say to coworkers about what's going on?
I personally think that the phrase menopause moment is a very easy thing to say. No one, I think you do better to just accept it, embrace it, and move on than to sit there sweating and denying it. That draws more attention to yourself. So private women and the more introverted women, I would say take a moment, be extroverted for 1 minute, and then you're allowed to just kind of go on.
Right, okay. I get what you're saying. I think that's good advice. I like having a menopause moment, or what I've heard women say, I'm having a power surge right now. So
yes,
right.
I was going to say that.
Um,
I think normalizing what is completely normal is really healthy to do. In addition, learning as much about it as possible, like we mentioned with the website, personalmenopauseanswers.com, and very importantly, to have women have a conversation with their personal health care provider. The great news is there are many different options that are available to help women manage their symptoms so that they can feel really comfortable. And their personal health care provider can help them figure out, based on the specific symptoms they're experiencing, based on their own personal health history, what different recipe might be the best match for that particular woman.
One more symptom that we haven't talked about that I would like to address a little bit before we have to go, and that is sleeplessness, or interruption of sleep that a lot of women talk about. When you are in a high-pressure work environment, how do you advise women to handle the lack of sleep that sometimes is associated with menopause?
It is true that sleep changes with the onset of menopause-related symptoms, and so there are lifestyle changes that women can do to help them maximize their ability to sleep well. I think all of us know exercising helps to sleep, and you want to do it a little bit farther time before bedtime rather than right before bed. Limiting caffeine, some of those kind of simple things. Again, the website, personalmenopauseanswers.com, has some suggestions. I think that women also need to figure out what works for them and what for them is a trigger. Cooling the bedroom, having a fan in the bedroom, some of the same practical tips that women identified in the survey, light bed sheets, things that can help women to be more comfortable at night are beneficial as well.
For the sleep deprivation aspect of it. All right, so again, would you name the website one more time so we can go take a look at that? And then I know you've got a lot of different interviews today. So what's the website one more time?
There are two websites. One is personalmenopauseanswers.com.
And the other is workingmother.com, where you can see what these women said on how they are managing menopause.
Fantastic. That's always the best, finding out from a woman who came before you how she handled it and how you can kind of walk in her footsteps.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, ladies. I appreciate the time. All right, there you have it. Just tell everyone you're in menopause and don't worry about it. I don't know. Stay with us. We've got a best-selling author interviewing her about her book called The Life List.